Yeah. Yeah, like a black and white relationship. It's all true or it's all unreal. Yeah, it's a really good question. And as I was getting the meditation, I knew that was a conundrum in the sense that more needed to be said to kind of deepen or go beyond the first step of knowing thoughts are just thoughts. Because thoughts are just thoughts, but are they useful? Which is your question. And the answer is yes. But without seeing that they're thoughts, then they become reality. And we're no longer thinking, we're just living a reality that's automated. It's conditioned. It's the dream. So what you're describing is kind of the consequence of having at least the understanding that a thought is a thought. And that's more than most people. So the reality is most people will be able to say this and that is a thought, but very little of what is thought would be understood as thought. So let's say of the world of thought that a person experiences, most people will say this little bit here, those are thoughts. Will be maybe the inner dialogue. Occasionally they will say, yeah, actually the inner dialogue is thoughts, or it's me talking to myself, and they could say that's a thought. But there's so much more that we experience that are only thoughts. And so in a sense, the work here is to see how much all of it is thought. All of what is thought is thought. So if you don't access thought, so let's say we could kind of push a button and you're no longer able to think, or let's say we can kind of take a moment and put thought aside fully, there's no time, there's no space, there's no sense of me or other, there's no sense of things, there's no sense of having been born, of dying, there's no sense of there being a world, a universe with stars, with planets, with other people, except for the people you are seeing in front of you, if any. All you would know is what is experienced right now. And you wouldn't know what it is. You would just experience shapes of forms, sounds, sensations. That's it. Everything else is thought. And this is very, very clear when seen. And it could be seen to a point where it's no longer confusing, in the sense that it's no longer something that can hypnotize you again. It's like watching a movie, and it's a really good movie, and let's say you're in the movie theater and it's like super loud and it's really intense and it's an awesome movie and you're super into it. So you've done what's called a suspense of disbelief. So you're like fully into it. You would never for a moment not know in some place that it's a movie. But it's that moment or those moments where you forget enough that you are experiencing the most, let's say, the best entertainment. It's the kind of forgetting that you're in a theater. But you never really, so when you're scared or when there's never the complete loss of the knowing that it's a movie. And that's part of kind of the thrill is you get scared, but it's a safe kind of scared. So that's kind of as a metaphor what I'm talking about. You've seen through it enough that it can no longer fully convince you of its reality. It no longer becomes absolutely real. And so everything we experience as thought is the movie, is you could call it the mind mapping of reality. And then the more you see this, the more you're free to play with the thought aspect in the way that's most wise, let's say. I use the word wise instead of practical because it's not always about being practical. Sometimes it's about being fun. Sometimes it's about other aspects that are not just practicality. So the usefulness is, let's say, the wisdom in it. It has many aspects. Because thought can be fun, could be playful, could be entertaining, could be practical, could be in service to many things. But if we don't first see that thought is thought, then we are in that kind of place where we're not relating to thoughts, we're relating to something that's real. And by that I mean, it's not the thought of a person, it's the person itself that I'm experiencing when I'm actually thinking about the person. That kind of thing. And you can even be having a dialogue with a person in real time, but you're actually mostly relating to the thought of the person and the person themselves. So the flipping back and forth you're describing is because there's been this first step that you now know, okay, these are thoughts, and sometimes you're completely pulled in, and sometimes you're pulling really hard to not be pulled in, and so everything, there's a bit of like a reaction to thought. When we're saying, it's just thought, it's just thought, it's just thought, it's not real, it's not real, it's not real, then there's a kind of another form of resistance or denial. And so what the next step would be is the discernment around how to best use thought, how to best relate to thought. And like riding a bicycle, at first you have to consciously focus on all the little things and all the ways, and you have to think about it, plus the body kind of thinking, the more mechanical learning. But there's a thinking around, oh, I'm falling to this side. The balance means I need to move my hands this way. Same with driving a car. But after a while, you're not thinking about it. And it's similar to everything. It's similar to work. It's similar to conversations, to everything in life, where there's an opportunity to, through discernment and kind of right the correct use of thought, the correct use of mind, we can learn to be, to live, to function in a way where over time the actual experience of thought decreases. That's what is known as entering states of flow. And people enter states of flow in many ways. It could be doing a lot of work that requires the mind, but there's a lot of flow in that there isn't a deliberate thought process. There isn't a lot of thinking. If you look at scientific inventions, physics breakthroughs, a lot of the experiences, I was just walking, looking at the sky or looking at the birds, and then boom, the solution comes. And that's a state of flow. But at first, we need to go through what you're going through. We need to first realize we're totally immersed in thinking, start to see more and more and more the reality that a thought is just a thought. And then we get into a battle with thought, learning to meditate, learning to disidentify. Yeah, and to know that it's neither one or the other. It's definitely not to be immersed in thought where it's real. That's the first step, is to see that it's thought. And when I say real, it's real, but it's a thought. The problem is confusing the thing for something else. And then it's not about trying to ignore or push away thought. It's about seeing what of it do I need right now for what I want and what I'm doing, what I'm creating, what I'm living. And you'll see like 90% of the thought that's happening is totally unnecessary, it's irrelevant, it's problematic. And then some of it will be useful for this moment. And also to note that you can start to see why it is that I'm so addicted and immersed in thought and desperate to jump into the believing of thought. And you'll see that because you'll notice how it helps you not feel. It helps you control the emotional sensation feeling space. It helps you by distracting. It doesn't actually control. It just distracts. And then you're going to start to notice, oh, I'm actually anxious. Oh, there's some fear. Oh, there's sadness. Oh, there's anxiety. There's a restlessness. And the being immersed in thought numbs. It helps me kind of disengage with that. And that's the only way we're really going to be freeing up from the addiction to thinking, is to engage with the sensations, feelings, emotions that we are avoiding. It's probably most of the time. Probably most of the time. Just kind of rule of thumb, assume when you've especially when you recognize like, oh, I was completely like immersed in a thought world. And you kind of snap out of that dream. It's like, oh, what's that helping you not feel? But wait, one moment. The question that I just asked, it's not, the answer isn't think about it. It's not thinking about what is it that is helping me not feel. It's go into the space of sensation. You might discover there's a whole reality that's really vast, it's really profound, and it's always present. And it's scary because it's infinite and it's unknown and unknowable. And that's what thought is helping you pretend isn't there.